I got a question of how to turn your spreadsheet data into a table using the grid container. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look. I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. This is the spreadsheet that we used, what was it, like a year ago? Back in 3.x. As you see, we're just dealing with 3 columns here, but this same method will work whether you have 3 columns, 12 columns, 8 columns, and it doesn't matter how many rows. We're going to make that table that you saw in the beginning there, simply by organizing it out and adding things in based off of the data that we get when loading the file in. Alright, and for a heads up, we are going to use GDScript and C#. Now for GDScript, this is the same loading code that we used in the previous video. There's almost nothing different to it, aside from how you write it, because obviously it's just file access open now. So if I just go ahead and duck on that. So if we go ahead and we were to take a look at scene, I just have a control node for the root, and I just have a grid container inside of it. And currently, my grid container, I set the constant inside of theme overrides on the inspector on the right hand side. I got the H separation just set to 40. Those kind of numbers are completely up to you. And I have columns set to 3, but we can set that automatically. So I'm just gonna reset that down to 1 column, and we'll take a look at how to add that in later, just so that we can see that it does work from the code for that. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump in, and I'm just gonna bring both of our sets of code here up on the screen. Alright, so if we were to go ahead and take a look here, we can see in the ready we have our data table being established, we have our get path, and this whole chunk here is exactly what we had in the previous video of this topic when we were talking about loading in Spreadsheets. And what's new here is this table data function where I'm passing in that data table. And for that function, we're simply going to just grab a hold of our grid container. And then of course we're going to run through 2 for loops. So we're going to get the row. So remember, when we have this set up in our dictionary, our keys are going to be 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's just going to match with the numbers. So we're going to say for row 0, do this. For row 1, do this. Row 2, do this. Row 3, and so on. Now, what we're doing here is inside of that row, we're getting that data. So that's where we're getting that weapon, defense, speed, and all those numbers that we had in here. If I go ahead and just pop that up here, just we're getting weapon, weapon damage defense would be the first row. Sword 14.7 would be the second row, or index 1. And spear would be the next one, and so on. So we're going across horizontally here. Now if we were to actually run this, and now what about C#? What about you guys up there? Well, we've never gone over you before for this. So let's go ahead and take a look. So just like our GDScript over there, we have a path, which is a string. We're coming down to our ready function, which I believe is similar to Unity start. You're coming from there. And then we're using gc.dictionary, and gc, as you see at the top, is what we're using as an abbreviation for using Godot.collections. That way we don't have to write that out every time. And doing gc.dictionary like this ensures that we are using the dictionary from the Godot API. And we'll do this as well with when it comes to arrays. So we go ahead and we get the dictionary, or we create the data table as a dictionary, right? It's a new variable, just like we see on the GDScript there in the ready function. And we call get data path, or pass in the path. And we're setting it equal to that because, of course, we're getting a piece of data returned to us. And if we take a look at that function, we can go ahead and take a look. We see it's a public function. We're expecting a dictionary to be returned to us. The function name is getData, and it has one argument of a path in the form of a string. So this is basically identical to the GDScript version here. We have main data that we have casted as a dictionary. That's going to be a brand new dictionary. We're doing our file access to open up our file, passing it the path, and setting it to read. As you see in GDScript, we have file access.read. C# we got file access.modeflags.read. Small difference, not a big deal. We go into our while loop. So while we haven't reached the end of our file, we're going ahead and create an array of a data set. This brand new array, and what's going to be stored inside of it. Inside of this brand new array is the CSV line of our file. So f.getCSV line. Now on the next line, we're doing main data. And we're going to set that first key to main data.count. So if we have 0 items, that's going to give us 0 for the first entry. And then we'll just pass in basically that CSV line directly into that key as a value, that pairing. And you don't need to close a file here with f.close, but just to be safe, we can do it anyway, just to make sure that the engine knows that we're done with it. And for whatever reason, we always end up with an extra line at the end, right? A blank line. So I just go ahead and I remove the last item, so count -1. Right? Because if we have, in our case, we have 3 items, so we're going to have 4 rows. So that's going to give us index 0, 1, 2, 3 for our entries. So that gives us a count of 4, -1, 3, so we can remove the entry with the key of 3. And then we just return that main data. That's the same thing that we're doing in GDScript. That's a direct copy, I guess you can say. Nothing real different there. And then when we come down to our table data, this is where things get a little different. Not a whole lot, just a little bit, right? So we have creating a new variable here. It's going to be a grid container. We're calling it table. And then we're getting the node. And as you see in C#, we use get node. We have our open and close carets, and inside of here is going to be the class that our object is created from, which is called a grid container. Then open and close parentheses inside of here as a string is going to be the pathway to it. Now in our case, if I just go ahead and this, we can see if I click on grid container, we just have one level here because our script is on top of this control. So we don't have to go through any paths, we just have a direct access to it, which is why we can just simply write grid container in there. Right, because it just coincidentally has the same name, but if I named it Bunny Rabbit Jesus, right, then I can come in here and call it Bunny Rabbit Jesus, right? So that's just going to be the name of the node itself. Hopefully that's clear for anyone new. Alright, now in order to go through here, we actually have to go through 3 for each loops here, as opposed to the 2 for loops that we have in GDScript. And here we're just going for KVP, which is going to be our key value pair inside of our new data. It's passed in. And we're going to get for item inside of our key value pair dot value, and we're going to get that as an array, whatever that value is. And this is just because of the way that it's created here. And then we're basically just going to get the object that's inside of that, right? So we're gonna get just calling sub item, and again, this item here is gonna be treated as an array. And then just like GDScript, we create a new label, set the text, then we add it as a child of our table. Alright, so with that, take care, have yourselves a good one. I'll see you guys next week. I have no idea if you guys wanted C# or not, because I'm recording this very, very early this time. But I guess I'll see, based on the videos and some of your comments, on whether or not you guys do want to continue seeing C# or if you guys just kind of want to stick to GDScript. Especially some of you newer guys that have showed up recently.